Let's talk about people who are outside of our community. One of my favorite quotes is, "If you've come here to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound with mine, then let us work together." And that quote always makes me think about allyship. And so, Rapsy, let's talk about the role of allies, folks that are not a part of our community, that have witnessed all that we've seen this year, or some parts of it. How do we engage them in the conversation? What role do they have to play in all that we're discussing when it comes to talking about injustices that are happening within the community?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think for anything to change, everybody has to care. Us and our allies included, people that are not in our community. America's 70% white. They have to care. A lot of the changes that we need have to do with policies too. We need them to vote these policies and these people in its place to make sure that we have them. So, you know, um, they have to want to care, and you know, a lot of them are going to ask, for advice or help. And I know some people are like, that's on you. In the same way Bun B says, if it's something that you really care about, you'll go be knowledgeable about it. And if it's something that you want to change, you'll do the work on your own. So, again, it's just about, continuing to speak on what's happening, to voice it, and hoping that, it touches people enough to see that, yo, I'm a part of this problem. I want to be a part of our liberation together, as you would say, and, figure out how they best can be a part of that process. That's just how I look at it. It's not about me going and knocking on their door and asking them to care, because I'm not going to do that. Come meet us at our table, and be a part of the process.
Toby, same question to you. Allies, what role do they play in our kind of current discourse on these topics?
I feel like they play a big role in getting a solution accomplished. I feel like it can't be just us saying, "Hey, this is wrong." It needs to. You have a If you are a true ally, then you have a responsibility to not just say, "Hey, this is wrong," but come help create and spread actual solution.
Bun B, same question to you. How do we
I think,
engage folks that may be outside of the community?
well, I think it's extremely important, right? In terms of defeating these different things, right? So, excuse me, when you look at racism, right? If racism was something that could be defeated by black people alone, we would have done it centuries ago, right? That's the reality of that, right? It takes a group effort. And I think there are a lot of white people who feel that because they're not racist, racism is not their problem to solve. But there's a lot of complacency that white people have in terms of dealing with racist white people, right? That they can kind of turn their back to them, ostracize those people, or just not really give their opinions weight, right? Black people in this country, unfortunately, do not have that luxury, right? So we can't just disregard different people's racism because it affects us too deeply. And if you look at the struggle of black people in America, it has been predominantly labeled as civil rights, right? So that means that we want rights that are based off of people's basic civility. The reality is that the plight of black people in America mirrors the plight of several communities around the world, right? Communities that are oppressed by other forces, right? So what we're dealing with in America is not really just civil rights. We're dealing with human rights, right? So instead of leaning on people's civility, we have to lean on people's basic humanity, right? And so the idea of trying to explain to people who do not look like us that it's what's happening to black people is wrong. We have to impress upon them that if this happened to any person, it would be wrong, right? It's not just wrong because it's happening to black people. It's wrong because it's happening to a human being, right? And I think George Floyd is one of those incidents where the world kind of looks at it collectively and says, okay, I wouldn't want to see this happen to anyone for any reason. So if racism is the reason behind this happening, then we need to fight against that, right? And as rough as it is for me to continuously look at a lot of these different images of police brutality, of racism, of things going as far as murder of people of color, it's necessary for us to see these things because they're real. They're happening in real time. For us, when we grew up, we didn't have the sheer number of video cameras that exist in the world now that take pictures of everything and video record everything. So people ask all the time, why is this happening so much right now? The reality is it's always been happening and this proliferates, right? The numbers are not new. The numbers are not even escalating. The numbers are kind of where they've been always. We just haven't had the ability to see these instances in real time. And it's always been the police officer's word over ours, the white man's word over ours, a white woman's word over ours. But now we have all the evidence laid before us. So when you see exactly what was done, who it was done by, and why it was done, and for what reason it was done, and you still deny justice in these cases, oh, we got to stand up on you. We got to move on you immediately, right?
Absolutely.
And the reality is that now Black people don't have to move on these things alone. So we're making better ground, but the fight still remains.
I think that is a perfect place to leave this conversation. The fight still remains. I want to thank all three of you for the work that you do in our communities. You are folks that have tremendous platforms, but you use your purpose here and share information that our community needs on such a consistent basis. And so for that, thank you to everyone that tuned in. We appreciate you. This is SelectCon 2, Artists and Activism, Platforms and Purpose. See y'all soon.
Peace.